Welcome to KYCPA's Behind the Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lindsay, KYCPA's Communications, Marketing, and Creative Director. Today, on this episode, we are celebrating the Black CPA Centennial, announcing the 40 Under 40 Black CPA Awards, sharing information about Kentucky's first Black CPAs, sharing insights on the main barriers Black professionals face and the roles their organizations play in helping overcome those barriers, and what the CPA profession can do collectively to progress in achieving diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're finding out more about KYCPA's Diversity and Inclusion Committee efforts. And with us today are several KYCPA members that are here to share their journeys as a Black CPA. Before I dive in, I want to introduce each one of them. Today we have Ann Brooks, a partner at PwC, Kim Burse, retired and currently volunteers for many community organizations, Olivia Davis, lecturer from the University of Kentucky, Kevin Graham, assurance supervisor with Dean Dorton Allen Ford, and Latanya Henry, president of LMH Accounting and Consulting, LLC, and Nate Littles, tax supervisor of Demlo CPAs. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Wonderful to see everyone.
Now I would like to talk about the Black CPA Centennial. The first Black CPA in the United States was licensed in 1921. His name was John W. Cromwell Jr. The upcoming issue of the Kentucky CPA Journal will feature Cromwell's story and the first female Black CPA, Mary Washington, and Kentucky's first Black CPAs. All of these stories will be linked from our website, kycpa.org, as well as other information for the CPA Centennial and the 40 Under 40 Black CPA Awards. There is a celebration in November honoring the 40 Under 40 recipients and also celebrating the Black CPA Centennial. To apply for the 40 Under 40 Black CPA Award, you must do so by August 15th, 2021. There's information at kycpa.org/D I.
As far as the celebration, I was really appreciative that it was put together so that everyone could understand the fact that it has been 100 years and we can celebrate. So I'm just elated that there will be something in November, and hopefully we'll have some nominees from Kentucky for that 40 Under 40.
Thank you so much, Kim. And now I would like to share a little bit about Kentucky's first Black CPAs. The very first one, his name was Chauncey Lewis Christian, and he was born in New York. He spent most of his early years in Virginia, and he graduated from Armstrong High School in Richmond. He worked as a cashier, field agent, and secretary for the Southern Aid Society of Virginia. He moved to Louisville, Kentucky in 1919 to work for Samuel M. Plato Construction Company as a cost accountant. And I also found out that Samuel, he was one of the first African American architectural designers and building contractors in the US. And his influence over Christian to pursue his CPA certification was just a huge influence. And he encouraged him to study for the CPA exam. And with the second Kentucky CPA, Carrie B. Lewis Jr., who he became a CPA in 1950. He taught at Kentucky State University. And Kim, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, they had predominantly an African American student population when Mr. Lewis was there, and also they had a strong business department at Kentucky State for years. So it was very interesting when you sent me the information about the fact that he was one of the first few CPAs in Kentucky. And it'll be good information to share with the current students at Kentucky State. And because they're trying to start a chapter of the National Association of Black Accountants at Kentucky State. So this will be very much an interest point for them.
Oh, yeah. He was.
As it relates to Mr. Plato, it's very interesting that you mentioned him because in Louisville, Mr. Plato was the architect of a of a neighborhood, and it was called Plato Terrace. I never knew of the connection that you just mentioned. I just knew he was a contractor and a person that had been the founder of this neighborhood and built all of the houses that were there. So it's interesting that he had the first CPA to act,
Mhm.
or he had a CPA, I guess, to work with him and do his accounting work. That's very interesting.
Thank you for sharing that, Kim. It is very important to realize the connections that were built and the mentors that were involved in shaping Kentucky's first Black CPAs. That brings me to the next segment of our podcast. KYCPA has a very active diversity and inclusion committee, and you can find out more about their efforts at kycpa.org /capital D, capital I. Recently, at our board meeting, we adopted a resolution, and Olivia is going to read that for us. It will also be posted on our website. So take it away, Olivia.
Great. Thank you, Kimberly. Both Kim and I actually serve on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and have for a number of years. Oh, and Kevin as well. Yes? Yes.
That is
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Okay. Did I miss anybody else that's on here? I don't. All right. But our chair, Renee, actually brought a resolution to the board in our April meeting to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the first Black CPA, and the resolution that we adopted as KYCPA was as follows: the Kentucky Society of CPAs is committed to increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the CPA profession. We recognize the importance of celebrating and honoring the 100th anniversary of the first Black CPA, and we do so with our deepest appreciation for those who paved the way for diversity in our profession.
And again, you can find that resolution at kycpa.org /DI. Now I want to move on to sharing your stories and finding out more about today's climate and the CPA profession for Black CPAs. Anne, I can start with you. When did you realize you wanted to become a CPA?
Well, I realized I wanted to be an accountant or study accounting when I was working at a car dealership as a receptionist, and the controller would bring down tasks for me to work on. And it was really my first introduction to what accounting was, and I realized that I enjoyed it. And so that really opened the door for me to make the decision to study accounting. Then I went to work for a big four firm and realized that the path to progression was based on achieving my CPA license. And it was a long road, but I was determined to really meet that goal of becoming a manager at the CPA firm, and really put my efforts behind getting that CPA license. And I will say that this past year, when I was made partner, I reflected a lot on my journey and the importance of the decisions and the mentors that I had. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the people who continued to push me, inspire me, and mentor me as I worked on getting that CPA license, because too often it's a hard hurdle sometimes to get over. And the people who kept me committed and meeting it really were instrumental in my career.
Kim, and I'm going to ask you the same question. When did you first realize you wanted to become a CPA?
Well, I like Ann, first decided I wanted to be an accountant and major in accounting when I went to the University of Kentucky, and I did that in my senior year of high school. We had accounting courses, but I didn't take those during high school. But I saw in a career book what um, persons who became accountants could actually make in the way of a salary. So I said, "Oh, that's what I want to do. I want to become an accountant." And it wasn't until my junior year of majoring in accounting that I understood the whole certification process and the test and all of the requirements that were necessary. But I also realized that it was the prominent part of the profession to be a certified public accountant. So that's when I set my sights on trying to do all of the things that were necessary to meet the certification requirements. So I decided in that junior year to move forward, and then of course in the senior year in the fall, I interviewed for at the time one of the big eight accounting firms and was selected to be hired. And so as soon as I graduated, the very next week I started working in public accounting, and it was expected of all of the new hires that they would go forward and take the test and become CPAs. And of course, I set my sights on that, and I passed the test and met the experience requirements to become a CPA. So it wasn't so much a mentor or someone who encouraged me. It was just the decision to do all that I could to take advantage of what the accounting profession had to offer. And at the time, it was the top top expectation that everyone would take the test and pass it and move forward to get certified.
Olivia, when did you first realize you wanted to become a CPA?
So I definitely didn't make a decision to be an accountant or even be a CPA. I don't want to say that it just happened, but I happened to fall into something that I was good at and ultimately was passionate about. But unlike or like many people, I had no idea what accounting was, what a CPA was, or anything, and have made a big part of what I've done in the last 17 years to focus on helping people understand what that is because I didn't know and I kind of landed here. I don't want to say by accident because I definitely had to work hard to do it, but I wanted to graduate college. That was my primary goal. Was my parents had were the first to do a lot, and I was not going to disappoint them after they gave me a lot of opportunities. So I said I'm going to graduate college, and I found out that if you got an accounting degree, one is I could finish, in a reasonable amount of time, but I also would be gainfully employed. I didn't know what that employment looked like, but I knew I could get a job. And I knew I wanted to graduate college and I also needed to be able to support myself. So I said, I guess I'll do this. And I ended up in public accounting and becoming a CPA. I'll say, to some extent because of peer pressure. Not that anyone was telling me I had to do it, but they were all talking about doing it. And I was like, well, if they are going to do this thing, I will do it as well. And so decided that that's what I was going to do. And I was just going to be a CPA, like just I'll do it. I had no idea what it took, and it certainly was a struggle along the way. But no regrets, and really, really happy to have kind of made achieved this milestone. But I will say at the time that I did, I had no idea what doors it would open for me ultimately in the future. And that's when, anybody listening to this today who's on the fence about whether or not they should pursue CPA licensure, you should, because there's so much out there that's available to you by becoming a CPA. And even if you don't know what it is now, that's okay. They'll keep throwing the opportunities at you after you get it.
Kevin, when did you first realize you wanted to become a CPA?
I decided and realized I wanted to become a CPA as soon as I decided I wanted to be an accounting major in college. And really, that came from high school going into college. At first, I never knew I wanted to go to college to begin with. I'm a first generation college student. So to me, that pressure on myself was, hey, you're the first to do this. Go all out, do as much as you can. Don't take any opportunity for granted as I'm trying to better my life and provide for my family and future generations. So as soon as I said, okay, accounting, it's business. I think that there's a lot of accountants out there, a lot of finance people. I can be gainfully employed, as others have mentioned. Well, can I go above and beyond that? Oh, well, you can get a CPA license. So as soon as I heard, yes, you're an accounting major, are you getting a CPA license? I didn't know what it was at the time. I've never heard of it. But I was like, yes, whatever that is, I want to get it and do my schooling to, I guess, work towards that point. And with that said, kind of my entire school career, through internships, through college, all led me towards this goal of becoming a CPA to better my life and provide more opportunities for me professionally, which it has. I was a Woodford R. Porter Scholarship scholar at the University of Louisville. And without that scholarship, really, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I guess I've been luckily to have been afforded. So it's almost a plug, but it's opportunities like that. It's seeking mentors. It's, having others who are in a similar situation really push me and say, hey, you can do this. You have achieved to this point, keep going. So that's helped push me to be a CPA, and something that I'm proud of to this day.
Next, ask Nate, when did you first realize you wanted to become a CPA?
Sure. So I believe non-traditional. I went and joined Bellarmine University when I went into college with accounting major, business minor, or marketing minor as well. But actually taking the classes and going through the courses and ready to graduate, I ended up graduating with the business degree with Bellarmine, and then coming out going right into industry at GE Appliances. So while I was there at GE and then actually taking on a finance role and actually doing the finance work, I realized that, hey, this would be a great time, perfect time to finish up those accounting classes, get the accounting certificate, and pursue my CPA. Actually, being in the private sector, seeing the benefit that the CPA is going to have in the long run, that was my driver to then go and pursue it. So having them pretty much cover my classes up to that point, and then joining public accounting for the interaction with clients and the personal interaction, that kind of was my last driving factor to push me into pursuing my CPA. So then I joined DMLO, um, passed my CPA exam, and then I guess the driving factor is just realizing while in industry, realizing while working that the sky's the limit for being when you become a CPA. I've always seen it as kind of the Swiss Army knife of the financial world, right? You know how everything works and how it kind of is integrated, and it just kind of gives you those keys to kind of do what you would like to do in the future. Um, so I guess, as for the people listening, it's kind of never too late. Like I said, I consider myself late to the game as far as being in public and pursuing my CPA, but the opportunities, like Livia mentioned, are endless, and there's a ton of opportunities, ton of upside. So that's always been the positive side, and that's always been my driving factor with it as well.
Latanya, when did you first realize you wanted to become a CPA?
I first realized initially I wanted to be an accountant in high school. I took an accounting class in high school and I really liked it, and it just made sense, and I like the idea of things balancing. And then when I went to college at University of Louisville, I was debating on business management because my mom had majored in management, so just kind of thinking maybe I'll follow her footsteps. But then I took business management, and I was extremely bored with it. And I decided of the majors in business that accounting is what stood out the most, and I felt like that's where I fit. And as far as thinking of a career and as far as having job security, I feel like every company needs to have an accountant. They need to know where their money's coming in and going out. So I stuck with the accounting. And then kind of like Kim decided maybe around junior year, after taking accounting theory class, which basically I felt like was kind of a preparatory for the CPA exam, because we used one of the CPA exam books as part of our curriculum. And so that's what got me interested in moving forward, wanting to take CPA exam. And then, of course, during the exam, I'm questioning myself like 10,000 times. Like, I think I'd rather drive a school bus than to keep doing this. It just, I don't know, it was overwhelming. It was a lot of studying, a lot of tears, a lot of giving up, a lot of sacrifices. But I'm so glad that I did. And like many of you, and I encourage others, when I hear anybody on the fence about taking it or about becoming a CPA, and I feel like, hey, if I did it, then they can too. So I highly encourage, um, and also the fact that there aren't a lot of brown and minority, um, folks that look like us that have their CPA. So, I highly recommend and encourage others to do the same. So that's my skill.
Thank you. What is something surprising about each of you that someone might not know?
Well, I surprised a few people today by saying that I play saxophone. So I will share that because I think that's probably a lot of people may not think of someone who's an accountant as somebody who maybe is creative. And sometimes the creative ones go to jail. So we got to separate the two worlds, right? But I love the arts, and so I like the arts in all forms. So that's probably the most surprising about the stereotypical accountant.
That's good to know, Olivia. Is you know, us accountants kind of have that stigma of being boring and the pocket protectors and no personality. So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I do like the saxophone. I think it's a very sexy instrument. So I'm glad to know that you can play that. But I guess something that you won't know about me is I recently started taking a bartending class. I don't plan on working in a bar, but I like to mix drinks and I like to, just kind of have fun and, you know, um, so yeah, actually, it will take my test on this coming Monday. So we'll see what happens after that.
That's awesome. I don't know what everyone else is going to say, but that's something that's very true about accountants is we always like to learn a framework and learn how to apply a framework. That's what we're
Right,
best at.
Eh,
Learn a
right,
framework, apply the framework.
right,
How can you
Bartending is the
follow up to
same way.
that? How can you
right.
follow up to that? It's like, mine's a kind of something people don't know. I work in assurance and auditing. So, you know, if you're in public accounting, tax people are viewed as they sit at their desk all day. They don't do much. They're kind of bland people. Auditors, maybe they're more outgoing. I mean, I don't know. I'm an auditor. I think I'm outgoing, but when I leave work sometimes and I'm not going to a social event, just let me sit down on the couch and just not think about anything or do anything. I feel like I'm that internal tax person that let me just sit here and not do a single thing. But if we're out socializing, then you'll probably notice me as one of the louder ones in the room and the person trying to jump into every conversation. But then if you just saw me at home, it's like, wow, he really doesn't do much, does he? It's like, yeah, that's me.
I'm kind of the opposite of Kevin. I know our titles would tell you differently, but personality wise, I am the tax guy who loves to get out, shake hands, and kiss babies. Now I know with COVID, we're not really doing that anymore. At least the kissing babies part. But yeah, I'm happy everything's opening back up. I definitely enjoy the social events, getting out. I feel like that's really that's where the clients are made, or that's really where you're growing your business and things. So.
I'm, I'm with you, Kevin, in terms of loving that couch. That's actually what I did the entire 4th of July weekend. But my goal is to return to being active. So before I was an accountant, I had dreams of being a ballet dancer as my profession. And then even once I started accounting, I became obsessed with like boxing and jujitsu and had this dream of potentially being a mixed martial artist. So I love to like challenge myself and try things and do ridiculous things. Um, provided by my energy is provided by Red Bull, which I drink about 4 of these a day, and I'm really trying to cut back on them. But when I'm not doing those things, I am definitely on my couch all the time, and I'm trying to get back into them so that I don't become a professional couch um, and TV watcher.
Yeah, COVID messed us up. It just made us like more comfortable at home, and we need to get out and do more things, meet more people, and really, like advertise what it is we do. We're not boring people as CPAs. It's like we do a lot of stuff, so we just got to get out
I
there.
know. Now that I'm getting older, I found that I'm also going to try to take some tennis lessons and some golf lessons because those aren't things that I did growing up. I'm digging a lot of divots right now with my golf clubs, but I'm working on it. So we'll see how that goes.
As far as something that people may not know, everyone considers me very conservative as an accountant, as a CPA. But of course, one of the first things I did once I retired was go zip lining in Jamaica. So people were
Nice.
pretty surprised by that because I'm adventurous. It just didn't always show. I'm the third old 10, and of course, even being right in that part of the family, um, younger ones tell us older ones what to do, and we older ones tell the younger ones what to do. But they were all shocked that I went zip lining. So that's something new.
I think just one thing to say is that I think this kind of going around and what would surprise most people about you is that everybody's list is probably longer than what they shared. But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
what's interesting is that w- even just with this small subset, none of us are alike, right? None of us are the same accountant, and even the tax guy and audit guy are telling us how they're the opposite of what people think they are. And I'm the auditor's auditor, though. Like Anne will tell you that, yeah, that I am all about shaking hands, kissing babies as well. But I think it's really neat that we can all see that what makes an accountant is really that passion for problem solving and not just one type of person. And that's really what everybody is probably um the real common thread about what makes a great accountant is that passion for solving problems. And I think we all probably can see that in ourselves, even though we may be very different in other ways.
The last question is, what can we do to increase diversity in the CPA profession?
As a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for the Kentucky Society of CPAs, we've really been focused on what are some of the barriers. And what we found is that for students of color and first generation college students, they don't always have mentors. They don't always have support systems that will help them along the way. They are often unaware of the different paths, the different types of opportunities within the accounting and the CPA industry. So there needs to be a real effort for everyone who is a CPA to help open up the pathways. As an industry, we have to do a better job explaining to young people at the middle school and high school level what is the accounting profession, what is a CPA, and we have to make them as familiar with our industry as do engineers, as do lawyers, as do doctors, because our profession is one that can offer a wonderful livelihood and career for young people, but they just don't know it. So we have to do a better job from a marketing standpoint, but we also have to build support systems for young people who are in college that have an accounting major and are seeking CPA certification. So part of my volunteer activity is trying to work at the high school level as a volunteer with various community organizations, as well as at the college level, to make sure that everyone is familiar with what are the opportunities to be an accountant and a CPA.
So I'm going to echo what Kim said is that, and this is not new news to anybody, is that there's an awareness issue about what accountants and CPAs are in general. And I think it's only compounded when we get to historically marginalized populations, in that it shows up in great greater relief, I think maybe is the phrase. So one of the things that not just everybody who's on this call here today, or even KYCPA D&I committee, et cetera, is the upping the awareness and outreach is everybody, every CPA's job, and everybody who knows the CPA's job, right? Because like we said, people know what a doctor is, people know what a lawyer is, people even now know what an engineer is because of all of the pushes there. So we have to be out telling our stories and letting people understand what we do and why it is we're passionate about what we do, and getting that message out to try and tell more people about it. And it's all of us, everybody's responsibility.
Yeah. Visibility is key. I was part of NABA, National Association of Black Accountants, through high school and post, or in college and post college, and their motto is "Lifting as we climb." It's our responsibilities to not only succeed ourselves, but help bring somebody up with us. There's no success greater than team success and a group success. When you're successful, if you're married, you hope your spouse is successful because you're a team. It just feels different when you are involved with more than just yourself. So that's kind of the model that I'm following through my life is the NAVA model of, hey, if I want to progress through my career, I want to help mentor. I want to help, give information to other people that I may not have known. Let me tell you about my journey, my story. So maybe you can either emulate it in some aspects and do it better, even. So whether you're, first generation, second generation, however many generations, college graduate, no matter whether you're 40 years experience or 2 years experience, you have your own experience level, you have your own journey and path that you took. And you, to Olivia's point, and we as a profession have an obligation to, help and bring other people up as well so they can take our place one day. So we can help advance the career path, especially for, Black CPAs, minority CPAs. I mean, Black CPAs, I think I saw the statistic that were less than 2% of the total profession. That's a very small number. 2% walk into a room of 100 people and there's only two of you in there. That's astounding to see. And typically what you do find is those people are kind of grouped together, where you'll see them at one or two places. So we really do have to spread this awareness and help bring each other up in progressing in all of our careers.
I think we have to focus on the continuum of someone's career and what their path to the CPA, because there's one thing about letting people know about the CPA profession and accounting overall and getting them interested in that. There's another thing to be said about once somebody has made a decision to start accounting, how do we keep them in that profession? How do we help them get to the level of earning that CPA credential? Being in public accounting, I see a number of our people who come in and they never get that CPA credential because there are barriers or obstacles in the place, or they don't necessarily see a vision or a path for them within an institution. And so helping people not only understand what is available in the accounting profession, but helping to mentor them and make sure that they are appropriately supported and seen and coached once they have started their profession, understand the value of continuing on to getting that CPA license and really supporting them in that process. And that's going to look different for everybody who comes in. And then once they've achieved it, making sure that there is progression and retention so that they are able to get the full value of that license, not necessarily retention within a public accounting firm, but just within the profession as in total. And so I think that it's really that continuum of getting someone interested in accounting to getting them to feel comfortable and understand the value that lies in that CPA credential is so very important. And I applaud all the efforts as getting people interested as early as they can and getting, the brand of what a CPA does and earns and can be the same as what other professions have. But I also think I love Nate's story. And so, Nate, I don't know what you're going to say, but I think that we have to think about some of the non-traditional ways. Like, to a lot of people, you think that accounting or the path to the CPA is go to college, come out, go directly into public accounting, spend a couple of years, get your CPA license, and then go figure something else out. But there's a lot of people who have already entered the professional world. And so how do we get to them to let them know adding that CPA license is such a valuable piece? And the good thing about most of the requirements is it's really just 150 credit hours with some number of accounting courses. So it's not as if you have to go all over and get an accounting degree. You just have to have the credits in the accounting courses. And so it's a much shorter path potentially to getting to that CPA license. And so figuring out how to get non-traditional students or non-traditional people involved in that cycle, I think is going to be one of the keys to see active, measurable changes in the diversity numbers within the profession.
And then I was just going to add, I kind of again echo what everyone else has said, just more, I guess, on the lighter side. There's a lot of just a breadth of just information out there for people to easily access through tons of social media platforms, through YouTube, through all over the place. Even the CPA exam pretty much is a self-study type exam. So I think that maybe having maybe a more vocal kind of creative or a vocal personality uh, from someone from the profession, or maybe maybe us inside the profession, um, being more vocal about it on like a YouTube or a social media platform where people can get information about the profession in short little bursts or short little informational. I think that would be beneficial. I know there's like FinCon. There's a ton of financial. I call them bobbleheads because right, it's all you're getting. It's kind of the Zoom box of their profession. But they talk about all kinds of different things about finance. But I think that the profession kind of needs our own kind of bobbleheads or people that are very knowledgeable about the profession, but also provide insight to the younger generation and younger people who are taking in that information via a TikTok or a YouTube or things like that.
Kevin participated and so did Olivia.
And also did it because I talked her into coming to.
I was right. I'm like, who
K1,
participated in that? But those short little video bursts about their story and sharing those little stories and with students in high school, college, people that are accountants that haven't become CPAs yet. Hopefully they will, are very important as well. And so you can find all of those videos on our YouTube channel if you want to share those. And I thank each one of you for joining me today on this podcast and continuing. This is another way to mentor future CPAs and to bring awareness of the profession to Black CPAs and to other minority groups. And I really appreciate your time and thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all at future KYCPA events, and I know all of you are very active in KYCPA. I want to announce one more time that the 40 Under 40 Black CPA Award applications are due August 15th, and that link to that application is also on kycpa.org.